Okay, good evening, Coach. Thanks for joining us. We have our media session here, and we'll ask you to make some opening remarks, and then we'll take some questions. So I'll turn that over to you now.
It was a tough game yesterday, especially to a crosstown rival. But I mean, just in every aspect you could imagine, I feel like we should have did better. Whether that's coaching, whether that's playing, whether that's whatever you could think of is something that we could have did a little better because we definitely didn't get the outcome that we wanted. Um, every time the momentum swung a little bit our way, they did something else to take the momentum away. So, I mean, that's something that we have to definitely correct. We make a big play here or there. We had some good moments, but at the same time, it wasn't enough good moments because, once again, we didn't get the result that we all, wanted and, practice and play for.
Okay, we'll go to some questions, and we'll start Ryan Abraham.
Hey, Donte. You talked about getting better. Like, obviously, with a team, you want to see them get better throughout the season. Is there anything you've seen in aspects of this team that you saw have gotten better that maybe you can build on for the last two games?
Definitely, the way that we run the ball. We run the football. You came into this year, nobody expected us to be a good running team. And I think, when we actually call running plays, we actually do a darn good job running the football. It helps when you have pretty much a stable of good running backs, and the O-line is doing a great job blocking. So that is one thing I am happy with the direction that we're going is the way we run the football.
And then just defensively in the Coliseum, giving up 255 points to conference opponents. I mean, is there anything you can put your finger on it just seems like every time a conference opponent comes in the Coliseum, they have their best offensive day.
Yeah. I don't know another way to put it, but that's disgusting. That's just something that we have to correct. And, I can't continue to talk about how we need to correct it because it needs to be done. Whether that is scheme, whether that's players, no matter what it is, it's something different every time. You call a perfect play, then all of a sudden somebody misses a tackle. All of a sudden, you got a player in the right situation and you called the wrong play. It's one thing or another every time. And it almost seems like, it's like they're in our huddle and they're calling our plays almost to the point to where it's like it's too many times that they're calling a perfect play to work against us.
Thank you.
Ryan Karchi.
Hey, Donte. Back in fall camp, I know we had all talked about it kind of, and it seemed like the defense was really going to be a strength of this team, at least at that time. And, obviously over the course of this season, that certainly hasn't been the case. I mean, how do you personally explain, from that fall camp point to now, just kind of where things came apart?
It's no one particular play or one particular day why it came apart. But like I say, it's just like everything else is a combination of things. It's a lot of guys right now that are playing a lot of football for us that we didn't expect to have to play a lot of football for us this year. We have a ton of injuries on this team, and that's by far no excuse at all. Because all these guys are on scholarship and all these guys continue to get better, just like we got to do a better job of coaching all these particular guys or putting them, the right players in the right position to make a play. So it's not one particular play. It's not one particular day. It just has been a combination of things. And it seems to almost be like a snowball effect that we have to stop and we need to correct, no matter what that is, whether it's, once again, playing somebody else or changing schematically of what we want to do. We got to do the best things to put the right players in positions once again to make plays.
And I know we didn't see Drake Jackson really at all yesterday. What was wrong with him that kept him out of the game?
He suffered a lower leg injury just pushing off, in the beginning of the week, the middle of the week, sorry. And he was one of those things that we hope that he could, as the time wear on, that he could be a little better and hopefully play in the game. He did everything possible to try to push, through and play, but unfortunately enough, it just didn't work out.
Let's go to Adam Grossberg.
Donte, just yesterday, there were a lot of players just talking about their frustrations that the week-to-week issues have not really been resolved to this point. I guess just from what is your frustration and the coaching staff's frustration that has not been resolved at this point either?
Everyone's frustrated when you're not getting the right result. You're going to be frustrated, especially when you you go out there, you put all the work in to, hopefully get results. But at the same time, this is one of those sports where you have to be willing to give your all without any kind of guarantee of success. So, all we can do is continue to try to push forward to, control the process and do what we need to do to continue to get better. And so the result can change. It's nothing that you can sit up here and just pout about and just think it's going to change. You have to work even harder and do things that obviously a little bit better. So, we're all frustrated because once again, we're not getting the same result that we want, the result we want.
And will Keaton return to practice tomorrow?
That I do not know. Right now, it's still, it's up to the medical staff when he's fully clear to go and participate.
Okay, we'll go over to Ryan Young.
Hey, Donte, building off Adam's question, at least one player last night mentioned that maybe it's the culture of the program is attributable to the struggles this year. I know you've been trying to change things on the fly. It can be hard to do in season. What's the big thing that has to be addressed or changed over the offseason before next year?
You know what? It's hard to put my fingers on because, like you say, it's hard to change culture during the middle of a season. I mean, anybody, you change something at a program cultural, it usually takes about 2 years. You look at anybody the first year when they try to go into place and change the culture, it never really happens. That's why the first year records usually aren't what you expect. It's usually year 2 and year 3 when the turnaround happens. So just, the biggest thing when it comes to culture is a lot of people being on the same page. And that's tough, especially what we've endured. Last year was COVID, so it's hard for you bring new coaches together. It's hard for us to truly mesh because of what's going on in COVID, and it's hard for us to get around the players and vice versa. And this year, you'll like to have a change, but, when you make a change right in the middle of the season, trying to change it, things are an obstacle because, you never got a chance to grow in the spring or the summer or even fall camp together in the things in the way that you want them to be done. So, all we can do is continue to try to push forward and change the culture in the right direction.
Is it fair to say that there's parts of the roster that just aren't responding at this point?
For one, even if it was, I would never, ever, ever, put something on a player. Everything's always, my fault first, and then it goes down from there. So, even if it was something like that, I wouldn't even ever comment on that. And I don't think that's the issue. I think, once again, it's so many of us that we all have to push together in the same direction.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Shotgun.
Hey, Donte, how would you evaluate Jackson Dart after watching the film last night?
I think he did some good things. It's tough to say because he made the right reads a couple times, and a couple balls, that were a couple drops, and also it's a couple throws he made that I wish he can get back. So, that was his first career start, and UCLA is a hard team to make your first start on because they constantly are applying pressure. Right, it's pressure in your face the whole game, and they come from every different direction. So, it's one of those games where you go in there and their defensive package is almost like third down on first down and second down. So, it's a tough game as far as all the looks that they're giving you, and I think he'll only continue to progress because once again that was a hard team to prepare for a first your first time start.
And then by my count, I think you guys is 30 scholarship players not dressed yesterday. How do you, how do you figure out where's the area that has affected you guys the most?
Definitely. Injuries. So, if you go ahead and you give us somebody back like a Drake London in yesterday's game, it probably will look a little different. And the list goes on. We have so many guys. Drake Jackson played only 2 or 3 plays when it was 4 weeks ago, that was the 2 guys that on offense and defense you depend on the most. And just to say, a couple weeks later, you don't have neither. You just go down the list. We have quite a few guys banged up. Trigg was hopefully going to come on and be a big time contributor. And, he's out. Then you take Lake and Rodney made his couple plays. He's out. And, Corey Foreman, is a guy. He's out. So you just go down the list. Brandon Peely, Ishmael Shopshore. There's so many guys that we depended on being big-time players for this year that are not able to participate right now, which is tough. But at the same time, we have a lot of other scholarship players, and these guys that actually are playing are doing a great job as far as, trying to get better. And they're only going to continue to get better. This is something that I think is going to help these guys tremendously even for next year with all the valuable experience they're getting this year that they wouldn't have got if all those guys were healthy.
Ryan Carchi.
Dante, just piggybacking off of that question, kind of how does that, especially with the injuries now late in the season, how does that complicate the picture in terms of red shirts and which young guys you want to use going forward? Just kind of weighing that equation.
Right now, we're going to continue to just play the guys that kind of already have burnt their redshirt year. You know, I'm never going to force or put a guy out there that's maybe one game away this late in the season. You know, when you burn a guy's redshirt year, you want him to play in multiple games, not just the 4 or 5. You want him to play like more around that 8, 9, 10 game range. So the guys that's been playing, those will be the guys that will continue to play because they've already burnt their year. But if someone hasn't burnt their year yet, I'm definitely not going to burn it.
I wonder about it in the case of a guy like Rajon Davis. I know he hasn't played a ton on defense this year, but yet he played, I think, in every game on special teams and won't be eligible for that red shirt. Is that, in hindsight, is that a situation in which maybe you would have hoped to hold him out and maintain that red shirt? Or
it goes both ways because at the same time he's able to play in the game and have valuable, experience. He's a guy who has ability to where he have to be at USC for 5 years because he does have some ability. So I think this is showing him some of the things that he also needs to work on in the offseason that he feels to get himself prepared for, not just the rest of this year, but also for next year, to where he can go out there right away and battle. And he's played in games. He's played against other teams. He's been in big time stadiums to where he's going to feel confident to hopefully step right into a role, in spring.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Back to shotgun.
Dante, similar to that, is there a reason why Julian Simon hasn't been able to get on the field? He's the only freshman, I think, that's a non-offensive lineman that's been healthy that hasn't been able to get out there at all.
Well, right now, one of our main contributors that's been able to go nonstop on defense has been Kanai. He leads our team in tackles and everything else like that. So it's hard to say that's a position right now where it's been Kanai and what we asked that position. The next guy's been, CV. So we've been okay at that position right now. Would you like more production? Yeah, we always like more production out of all those guys. But he's a guy who it was why burn his year or just put him out there just to do it. When you have some older guys already at that particular spot, Kanai has played. At times he's been the best player on the field.
Also, but on special teams, he's a guy that seems like he would have a special teams body. And you got Kanai, like you said, he's played a ton of snaps, and he's on kickoff return during that game yesterday.
Yeah, but if somebody that even if you burn a year for kickoff return, you only, pretty much use them for 4 games. And, I really want to progress to where kickoff return are guys doing what they need to do, meaning like offensive guys on kickoff return. Receivers, they're used to blocking. Tight ends, they're used to blocking. Running backs, they're used to blocking. It's hard. It takes a lot for a defensive player who's used to tackling to say, now go block when you barely practice doing that. So credit to Kanai to being able to go do that because in previous years, he's also played on special teams.
Okay, we'll take a last one from Ryan Carchi.
Dante, just really quick, what's Keontae Ingram's status after he left the game?
Right now, it's still uncertain. So, he's getting looked at right now until he fully gets evaluated. I wouldn't be able to tell you. I know he was still getting looked at this evening. So we'll see how everything comes back.
And that was a rib injury?
It was upper body injury. It's not really truly determined what it is.
Okay, Coach, thanks for joining us. Media, thank you for being on board here. And we look forward to seeing you this week for part of the BYU game. So we'll see you all on practice on Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you.